Hi there, folks out there in Talkin Baseball land. This is Pete Lincoln with Jason Smith.
Hello.
And this is Season 5, Episode 10 of a long series of shows that we've been doing throughout the year. And we want to do a quick shout-out to a couple of towns that have picked us up.
Yes, we're expanding.
Fall River and Provincetown have picked up our shows.
Greetings.
So shout-out to them. Hope you enjoy it.
And I hope you know what you're in for.
And tell your neighboring towns, because
yes.
we really love to go syndicated so we can get
some
wider exposure.
This is a business, as we always say. It is about money. So before we start, I do have to bring up one thing. You saw here first on Talkin' Baseball, there was a recent election of Hall of Fame members that happened with the Veterans Committee, including Mr. Ted Simmons, who 2 years ago, when we did our Hall of Fame show, we called it that Ted Simmons would be in the Hall of Fame, and he was deserving. So, little pat on our back to ourselves for predicting Ted Simmons.
You called it. You were definitely the sponsor of the Ted Simmons.
I was. So maybe
Ted Simmons has made the Hall of Fame, in a large part to the initial contact.
I was in touch with the commissioner and all the committee guys to get Ted Simmons in, and it worked. So I'll have to work on Lou Whitaker next, I guess. So welcome. We're heading towards the Christmas season right now. This is our last episode. Thank you for watching. And we're going to head into a topic here. There's been a lot of debate about declining attendance in baseball. Not so much TV viewership, but actual people attending the game at the park. And we got this great book here, the Bill James Handbook. You can take a look at this. Now, if you don't know who Bill James is, he was sort of the pioneer of the whole sabermetrics statistics way of looking at players. Past the traditional home runs, RBIs, batting average, he went in deep to a lot of stats and analyzed them endlessly. And things like exit velocity and ERA plus and OPS were all due to Bill James, who actually worked for the Red Sox for a few years. And every year he comes out with a handbook. This is the 2019 edition.
And if there's any stat freaks out there, this is the ultimate double Bible.
There are stats that will make your head spin in this thing. There's stuff that we don't even get.
The complete up-to-date statistics on every Major League player, team, and manager through last season. Every possible stat, every play you can. It's mind-boggling.
If the wind was blowing out on a Wednesday afternoon against a left-handed pitcher, it's in here. Trust me. Every single conceivable stat.
I just opened it up. Hard hit balls.
Hard hit balls. Okay.
Highest percentage of hard hit balls.
Yep. And what is a hard hit ball? Well, he explains it. So if you're into sort of the minutia of statistics, anything Bill James has done is highly recommended, but he also has a really interesting sort of first 100 pages of this book or so, where he talks about various things that are affecting baseball. And one of them is the decline in attendance at the park. And he sort of lists all these various reasons why he thinks the attendance is declining.
So he's got a great many pages on, first, reasons why they're declining, and maybe ways to bring baseball back to the people.
Some solutions.
Now, some of them are way out there. Some of them I don't understand. Some are based on extraordinary statistics that if a team finishes their games under 3 hours, they get a certain number of points, which they can redeem in S&H green stamps at some point. I don't understand. But what he does do is bring up some sensible things.
Sure.
So before we get to our final right-handed pitchers, Mount Rushmore Hall of Fame today, I thought first we'd start out by saying his reasons why baseball attendance is dwindling.
Yes.
And see if we agree with them,
disagree, or somewhat in the middle, somewhat.
So here we go. First of all, and this is the most obvious one, cost of going to games. Now, it depends. The cost of going to games is so relative. If you want to sit in the green monster seats and you want to have catered food, and you want to have limo service to the game,
and you want to see the Yankees on a Saturday,
you have to mortgage your house to go to a ball game.
Right.
But if you don't mind sitting in the bleachers, and you take the tea in, and you don't have to gorge the kids with $50 candy,
and it's a Tuesday night in April against the Tigers, say, then it's really not that expensive relative to...
Here's the thing that gets me. It's the cheapest of the four sports.
Yes, it is.
You cannot find a seat in Boston Garden or down at Gillette less than $100.
Right.
None. Zero. If you want to take... I've been trying to find a friend decent seats to a Bruins game. I couldn't find anything less than $165.
Nothing.
Up in the rafters.
Right. Same thing. And we know that there are more home games with baseball. We understand that. But it's the cheapest of the four. How long is the wait list for the Patriots season tickets? It's years, I think, people are waiting for season tickets.
And last year, the Red Sox averaged 37,000 people. So apparently, there are a lot of people that could assume
right.
I don't think real baseball fans concern themselves about the cost.
Right, and again, we've talked about this before. It's supply and demand. And just because the Red Sox are expensive, that doesn't mean other teams are. You can go catch a Marlins game for about $10 a seat if you're so inclined.
Or a minor league game.
Or a minor league game.
Maximum tickets $15.
So I think the cost of games is sort of relative to what team and market you're in. I mean, of course, the Red Sox and Yankees, Cardinals are always going to have huge markets that pack the stands. A team like, say, the Royals would probably sort of come and go as the team is successful and not successful. Right. So it sort of depends on how good your team is. Right. So, and then there are the two teams, the Florida teams have never drawn well, Tampa Bay and Miami. So it may be a cost for some people depending on the team you root for, but overall across baseball, I'm not sure that that's quite accurate. And like you said, go see a minor league team. The minor league teams are doing great, and they're cheap seats. We had a whole show where we talked about that before.
I think the bottom line is a lot of people that complain about the cost of going to games don't go to other sports games.
No,
you watch football. I would much rather watch football at home.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
And it's difficult to get into the garden and out. Right. So I don't mind watching those on TV.
Right.
As opposed to going and sitting a nice summer afternoon at Fenway Park.
Right. And a lot of these people, they aren't, we toot our own horn a little bit. We're sort of seasoned veterans of going to the game. Yep. We know how to streamline our costs. We know how to get in. We know how to get out. We know that you eat before the game rather than gorging yourself at the park. We know that if you bring kids to do the same thing, make sure you have water and snacks for the kids. All these little things that cut down on costs. If you're going to go and bring 3 kids with you and you have a beer and your kids have hot dogs and drinks and you get souvenirs and all this other stuff, of course it's going to cost a fortune. So it's sort of, you can really streamline your costs if you know what you're doing when you go to a game.
That's right. So I don't think that cost of going to a game is a valid argument because
agree.
Cost for anything. The Billy Joel tickets that are playing there this summer, $170.
Oh, the Motley Crue tickets are $400 to go see him at Fenway.
So
I mean,
it's just a matter. I don't think real fans are concerned about the cost.
No, not at all. So
we're going to scrap that one.
Let's scrap this one. So number 2, what he brings up, and this is sort of a dilemma again, depending on where you are in the country. Games ending near or past midnight. Games ending late. Now, and by this we mean playoff games in the postseason, talking about national audiences. And here's the problem with that: we live on the East Coast. Of course, the games aren't going to start till 8 o'clock on the East Coast because you have a whole West Coast audience that's going to be upset if the game starts before 5 o'clock. They won't be home for when the game starts. So, in a bubble in the East Coast, you say, yeah, start the games earlier. Well, then you've made the whole West Coast mad because they're missing half the games.
They won't watch the games.
Or they won't watch the games at all.
They go the commercials for that.
Right. So this is, again, sort of dependent on where you live. Now, probably the biggest audience for baseball is the East Coast, so maybe they could get away with, say, like a 7:30 instead of an 8 o'clock start time. But when you have a country like the U.S. that has 4 different time zones, you're going to make some of them upset no matter what time you start a game. And it's more the length of the game than the start time. I mean, the World Series games started at 8 o'clock when I was a kid, and they were done 10:30, 11 o'clock. It wasn't this whole long, drawn-out, all-night thing. So I'm not 100% convinced that games necessarily going late is something that can be solved. You're going to make some part of the audience upset anyway.
The obvious way to solve them is have afternoon games. It's really a shame no kid can watch a World Series game.
That is true.
None.
That
Nobody.
is true.
And so that's part of the problem, where my generation watched afternoon ball games for the World Series.
Sure.
So there's something to that anyway.
Sure.
Here, I think, is the number one reason why baseball's attendance is slipping. Kids are playing video games instead of playing baseball outdoors.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I lived with a baseball in my hand.
Right.
I lived with one.
Right.
I begged my dad, please play catch with me. I stand against the barn and roll it down the roof.
Right.
Every Sunday, I'd have 20 kids come up and play ball.
Yeah. My brother and I had epic wiffle ball games in the backyard, like 20-inning games. You couldn't pick your arm up the next day.
I mean, kids just play indoors now. They don't play outside. You never see kids playing. You see them playing organized sports with the adults running it. and with uniforms.
Right,
and
but no pickup
trophies.
games or anything
But just
like
going
that.
out and playing pickup games for the fun of it.
You never see baseball diamonds with just a bunch of kids playing. It's always the little league teams with the adults
And
running
I
it.
think that's true. A whole generation
Absolutely.
is missing out on participation.
Absolutely. And I think relative to the other sports, I think baseball gets hurt the most by that because basketball you can play indoors, hockey you can play indoors, football, of course, is just a juggernaut. You can't do anything about that. That's always going to be number one. But baseball requires being outside and a lot of space. And so even if you are outside,
And also,
it's kind of
you
tough.
know what else? A lot of practice. Baseball's a
Yes,
hard
it
game
is.
to learn.
It is,
and
sure.
you learn it. You can't really learn it well until you develop along the way.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
just to suddenly say at 16 I'm going to play baseball, can't do it.
No, there are so many intricacies of the game depending on pitching, hitting, fielding, everything. Unless you do it from when you're a kid, you're going to miss out on it. You probably don't appreciate the finer arts of it, I would say. So that's a huge one.
We don't want to beat this too long, but here's some of the other ones. Games played in cold weather. I don't buy that.
I don't either.
They play football in blizzards.
In blizzards, exactly. They play hockey on ice.
If
I
you
mean,
go to
come
a
on.
baseball game in November, it's going to be cold,
Yep.
and we've been to games in April when it's snowing.
When it's snowing,
Just
yes.
suck it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not changed any
No,
over the years.
no, not. And they're not going to. The Patriots don't complain about that, so I don't buy that at all.
And then also World Series games played in November. The problem with that is that they've added all these playoff layers.
Right.
So instead of ending, they drag the season out
So
because it's more money.
It's more money. An extra round of playoffs is more money,
And again, they're all night games.
and they're all night games. So you're playing at night in November, and they've sort of somewhat started the season earlier the last couple of years, but it still goes till Halloween.
Well, they
You know?
did that because contractually they have to have one day every 19 days off.
Yes. Yep.
So they have to drag the
They have to
season
drag
out
the
so they
season
don't
out.
have
Right.
continuous
But as you said,
games.
so this is something. This next one is something that I think is really interesting about that Bill James brings up, and this is a recent phenomenon of the 3 true outcome games: walks, homers, and strikeouts. Where so much of the game is centered around the 3 true outcomes, as they call them: walks, strikeouts, and home runs. Now he has this whole segment about, is this what the fans want? Give the fans what they want in terms of watching baseball. Is this what fans want? I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
I mean, do fans prefer the 3 true outcomes, or do they prefer in the 80s when teams were bunting and stealing and slap singles and things like
I think
that?
what he's really addressing, though, is the younger audience.
what-
If the younger audience doesn't know any different,
Right.
why would they complain about
Right.
it?
And the younger audience is used to seeing the highlights at the end of the night when the guys hit home runs 450 feet and do this and pump themselves up. And so when that's what they're showing in the highlights, that's sort of what they expect the game to be. And that's not really the case all the time. So I'm not sure that that's dwindling attendance. I don't think longtime baseball fans, they might grouse and grumble a little bit how they don't like it, but it's not going to stop them from going to games,
No,
I don't
they're
think.
still gonna watch.
They're still going to go.
Another one is that he claims is pitchers aren't trained any longer for 9 innings, so there's too many changes. Yeah,
That's
there
true.
are a lot of changes.
That's true.
It's changed the whole nature of the game. The pitching has changed so that you're not expected to go 9 innings. And so that slows the game down.
Sure it does.
Except in the old days when they went 9 innings, by the 7th and 8th inning they get clobbered.
Right.
So the game was,
Right. How many times did a tired pitcher
but this
go?
8th one I think is valid. There's too many teams not really trying to compete anymore.
Yes.
The last 3 or 4 seasons, there's been 3 or 4 teams with 100
Just
losses.
totally tanked.
100 losses.
So, and they just don't even try to win. They trade away all their stars or anybody decent on the team, and they say, well, we'll rebuild through the draft. Well, what's happened is everybody used the Astros as a model for that. The Astros were horrible for 3 or 4 years. Now they're a juggernaut with all this homegrown talent. It worked for them. That doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone. You have to draft carefully. You have to pick the right players. You have to have the good minor league system to do it. And you do have to have somewhat of a payroll to sustain the team, because when they get big, they're going to want more money. You can't have a team just of all rookies that's going to win. That doesn't work that way.
It is true. A game against the Tigers and the Royals on national TV is probably not going to draw.
Of course. Like we said, the Marlins, the Royals, the Tigers, the White Sox have all tanked last few years.
It doesn't have anywhere near the parity that football does.
Not at all,
Because in
no.
football, there's fewer games, and most teams can win, can beat almost any other
Well,
team.
there were 4 teams that won 100 games in the American League last year. 4! It used to be there would be one every 3 or 4 years that did
maybe.
that. There were 4 before this year, including, come on, the Twins won 100 games. Did that look like a 100-win team to you?
No.
They beat up on the really bad teams to get to the 100 wins.
1967, Red Sox won the pennant with 92 wins.
Yes, absolutely.
92 wins.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Well, the Cardinals won the World Series with 83 wins about 15 years ago. So.
And, of course, this one that is always being brought up, the increasing length of the games. It's up to about average 3 hours and 5 minutes. How long does a football game last from start to end?
More than that.
3 hours
More
and
than
5
that.
minutes.
Right.
So I think it's just people are turned up by the sport, not the length of the game.
Right, and why is it getting longer? Advertising is the number one reason that the games are longer, and that's not going to go away. You cannot cut the ad times to the games. That's not sustainable. So.
And his last one is delays from instant replays and long commercials.
Long commercials, yeah.
Instant replay, I'm not sure has helped this game.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it has.
I'm really waffling on it because I really think that if you want to check a play, okay, real quick, go ahead and do it. You don't need to bring the guy out with the camera, and they all huddle around and do this. And it's just these little minuscule plays. Oh, did he get to the base a nanosecond before the ball?
I mean, they have instant replays in football, and they seem to take half as long.
Right, and they're much more
They just
more
walk over to the
condensed.
sidelines,
Right.
look at a little picture.
Yeah.
You know.
And football, you're talking things that are like this much for a touchdown or something like that. You know, I mean, if you want to do, I'm sold on it in terms of like a home run versus a double, something like that. That's fine if you want to review that, but these little taking 10 minutes to determine if the guy slid off the bag after a
In
steal
fact, that's
is
one of the
ridiculous.
things we'll talk about at the end of the show.
Yes.
He wants to eliminate the second base replay.
Right, yes,
Because
yes.
you know, something that minuscule moment that the foot comes off the bag,
right.
which no naked eye can see is
Right.
absurd.
So who cares?
I remember Jerry Remy having a fit
Oh,
about
Jerry,
that one
of
time.
course he had a fit about that.
So we'll come back to his solutions when we get through with our top 10. Now, why don't you explain?
So, because we forgot to do this last show.
Explain
and
to our new viewers,
right, our new
especially out there
viewers
in Provincetown and Fall
new
River.
viewers down at Cape Cod. So what we did this season is we determined what we call a Mount Rushmore of every position on the field. We took the top 5 players at each position and left-handed and right-handed starting pitchers, no relievers. So we had 10 episodes where we talked about the 5 best at each position since 1950. Very important. And for those reasons, the reason we picked 1950 is because our illustrious host here has seen all these players since 1950.
It also was the time when expansion took place,
And
integration took
yes.
place, and night baseball took
Yes.
place. So it's really hard to compare
Right.
Lefty Grove
Right,
with,
exactly.
with Roger
Right,
Clemens.
we're not going to compare Cy Young to some of these players.
So it's the last 70 years of ball
Right.
players. There's too many people in the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
The Hall of Fame is over 300 and growing now, and you can walk around there and say, how is this guy?
How is this guy
In fact,
in?
I just read an article, 25 guys that do not belong in the Hall of Fame.
And you could probably come up with more, and you could come up with 15 that should be in. So that,
I
but
mean,
that's
Mount
part
Rushmore
of the debate.
is only for 4 presidents.
Right.
We haven't added a new one for a while.
Right. So we had the cutoff at 5 of each position. So today we're going to talk about the top 5 right-handed pitchers in. This one, I think, had the most to choose from of any of the positions. There's an extraordinary amount of terrific right-handed pitchers since 1950, and you're probably going to be surprised at who makes the cut and who doesn't. We had to cut it at 5, so somebody had to not make
But
the cut.
each of these 5 is
Each
extraordinary.
of these 5 are incredibly well qualified.
And any list you see of the top right-handed pitchers will include these people.
Of
Maybe
course.
in different order, but
Yeah,
in this
right.
order.
So our number 1 pitcher, right-handed pitcher since 1950, we all know him well, Red Sox fans, the Rocket, Roger
Clemens.
Now, Roger Clemens came up with the Red Sox, pitched with them for 13 years, I believe, and then went to the Blue Jays, Astros, and the Yankees. He won 7 Cy Youngs with 4 different teams. No one has ever won 7.
Cy Young.
No one's ever won 7.
I
No one's
should
done
say
it with
ahead
4
of time,
teams. Yeah.
we are not discussing steroids.
No, we don't. That's not irrelevant to our discussion.
That's not on the table.
And Clemens never tested positive, if you want to go that route.
In all these Hall of Fames, that's not been a consideration.
No, we don't care about that. But he had 354 career wins, which is 3rd since the dead ball era, which is really extraordinary that in the era he did it in. As we said, 7 Cy Youngs. He also had 1 second place and 2 third place votes for Cy Young. So he had 10 different years where he was in the top 3 for Cy Young voting. Think about that. And he has 7 times he led the league in earned run average, 8 times in ERA plus. And again, he did it with every team that he was with: Red Sox, Blue Jays, Yankees, and Astros.
The stat of his that most amazes me is his WAR. His
Yes.
wins above replacement, 139-2, topped only by Babe Ruth.
Only by Babe Ruth. Amazing, isn't it?
Wow.
He has 4,672 career strikeouts. He's third, I believe, right?
Yes,
He's
yeah.
third behind Ryan and Johnson. And he has one MVP, and he had 10 years where he got MVP votes. Think about that as a starting pitcher. He had 10 different seasons where he got MVP votes from the writers, which we've talked before about how writers are discriminating against pitchers a lot of the time. That goes to show how good he really is.
He's one of only 3 starting pitchers to win the MVP award.
Yes. Yep. And
Vita Blue, Justin Verlander, and
Roger Clemens.
That's it.
And
1986.
Yep, in his 1986 season, we all remember, of course, he won the MVP, he won the Cy Young, pretty much carried the Red Sox to the World Series that year. He was 24-4 that year. And he has not one, but 220 strikeout games to his credit. And here we're going to take a little tangent here.
We're going to take a little hike down
Take a
memory
hike down.
lane.
April 29th, 1986.
So, Jason was 10.
Yep.
And his mother and I took him to a game in the bleachers.
In section 34, the little tiny section near the camera.
They used to have the cameras down next to the people. We'd love to sit right next to them,
Right,
right beside
right.
the cameras.
Right.
Great view of center field. I think the tickets then were about $3.
Oh, yeah. Right, yeah, I think so.
There was an usher named Archie that used to walk around,
You
smoke a cigar.
Smoke a cigar.
See how you were
Yeah,
doing.
the bleachers back then sort of had a lot of colorful characters. It wasn't quite the family-friendly atmosphere that it is now.
And it was a cold night. We were playing Seattle, that had just flown in after striking out 16 times in their last game. In fact, we debated, we didn't, but our Debbie decided, we don't really want to go to this game. It's cold.
But we went anyway.
We dragged her down there. And as the game started, Roger started striking people out. And after 4 innings, he had 8 strikeouts. And after 5, he had about 9 or 10. And it was, as the numbers were increasing, my mathematical memory started hitting. What's the record for the Red Sox?
For the Red
I think
Sox?
it's Bill Mamboquette, who had 17. And finally, another aspect of this game, it was nothing to nothing.
No, it was scoreless. Yeah, Mike Moore
was pitching against him, and it was a shutout. And at the top of the 7th, do you remember with the home run?
Gorman Thomas, Stormin Gorman,
lofted one into the bleachers to give them the lead.
To give Seattle the lead.
Oh my God, we're going to see this great pitching effort,
and he's going to lose. He's going to lose, and he was just mowing the batters down. Seattle had 3 hits during the game. The other 2 were little flare singles. I think one was a roll.
Spike
Owen got one.
Yes,
right, future Red Sox Spike Owen, and he only had 1 walk during the game too.
Zero walks.
And I don't think he had a full count even after the second inning. He was just blowing the Seattle batters
away. So in the last of the 7th, they got a couple men on, and Dewey Evans lofted one toward the camera. Now, they showed this game frequently on Nesson.
You can see
it. Look carefully. You will see a large man with a bright red shirt on, run around behind the camera, stand there ready to catch the home run. The home run catches the very edge of the net and drops down in the field. And I stand there like this. I had 3 seconds of fame.
We would have caught the ball that Dewey won the game with. Yeah, back then they had the net right next to the camera, and it fell right into the net and rolled back onto the field.
I missed by this much of catching that ball.
And the funny thing is, there were these people who were regular bleacher people, and they were crazy people, but they were so fun to be around as fans. And one of the guys started giving out candy bars as Clemens was striking out people. Well, he picked this night. He picked the wrong night. He had to go back under the stands to get a whole bag full of candy bars to throw out to the crowd as Clemens was striking out so many people.
So anyway, it gets through the 8th inning. He struck out 18 people.
18
I said, that's
8.
the Red Sox record. That's the Red Sox record. First guy up in the 9th inning, he strikes out. And then next guy comes up, he strikes him out too, to set the all-time record.
Set the all-time record.
And I don't think the crowd, there were only 13,000
right.
people.
Oh, that's the thing. If you watch a replay of this game, the stands are less than half full.
There was nobody there. No. They all claimed to have been there.
Yeah,
200,000 were actually there. But
right.
And then the last man grounded out.
Yes. Yep.
And they announced that there's a new record. I have been to thousands of games or watched thousands of games. I never had a feeling like that in my life.
Oh, it was incredible.
I have
Oh.
just seen something that's never
Yep, I'm seeing a record right now.
absolutely never happened before.
And what are the odds of that? Of all the baseball games in the history of baseball, to be at that game, one of 13,000, probably rounded up to 15 if you consider ushers, employees, team, whatever. There were 15,000 people on the planet who saw that record being set.
But we talk a lot about iconic moments. That's like the definitive.
Oh, absolutely,
iconic moment.
absolutely.
He did it again later.
He did it against
It's
the
been
Tigers
done
later.
2 other times since.
Scherzer did it and Johnson did it. Yep.
Well, Johnson did it in extra inning
Yes,
games,
and
so
Kerry Wood did it too.
Kerry Wood did
Yes,
it too. But
yep.
still,
Yep.
to have seen something like that, it was just so remarkable.
And a lot of Red Sox fans have ill will towards Roger Clemens. I have zero. I mean, he was part of that iconic moment in my life. Who knows? I may be the last living person who saw that game. There weren't a lot of 10-year-olds there that night.
I think we've got a cute little clip of Steve Lyons
Yes.
was the center fielder
He was.
of that game.
Yes, he was.
And here's a little clip of him reminiscing many years later about being at that game.
When I think of my memories of the famous 20 strikeout game from 33 years ago by Roger Clemens, I remember that there weren't that many people at the game because the Celtics were in the playoffs against the Hawks. They were trying to win an NBA championship. It was cold. It was a rough night. And then Clemens just went out there and dominated. I think I caught a couple balls in center field, got a hit. We were losing that game until very late when Dwight Evans hit a home run to finally put us ahead. It would have been amazing, if you think about it, if Clemens struck out 20 and we didn't actually win the game. But it was a great night, and if you look at the most famous picture of that, I'm the only guy that's excited. Clemens is just standing there on the mound. Rich Gedman is about ready to throw the ball around the horn, and I'm standing in center field like this.
See? And it's true. There is a classic picture taken from behind home plate of the umpire calling out the third batter.
Vic Voltaggio was going like
you
this
could
behind
see
home plate.
Everybody's standing around. Buckner's was at first. He was just sort of standing there. But way out in center field, you can see Steve Lyons
going like this, like he knew it was the record. Yeah. so that's our Roger Clemens story, and he would be number one apart from that, I think. But just because he had that iconic moment, not in the Red Sox history, but in the history of our attending games too, that's just number one iconic moment. Probably never will be topped.
So one aspect of this show that we've added is the trivia question, which used to be just a trivia question to the audience, but since I'm sitting next to Bill James Jr. here, with his stats ability, I've been dreaming up trivia questions just to be able to he calls Stump Jason. So since we're talking about Roger Clemens, Roger Clemens leads the Red Sox all-time pitchers with 192 wins. But actually he's tied with someone. Who is he tied with?
I know who he is tied with. I do. Should I say it or wait till later?
No.
All right.
We'll
let them ponder.
Let the audience
I do know who he's tied with.
Who is Roger Clemens tied with for the most wins?
I do know that. So moving on to number two.
We spent a lot of time on Roger.
Yes, but it's deservedly so.
So we'll move a little quicker for the rest of them. Number two pitcher is Greg Maddux, who spent 11 years with the Braves and 10 years with the Cubs, a little while with the Dodgers and a little while with the Padres. His WAR was 106, but he was the master of control and guile.
Yes, 355 career wins, one more than Clemens. One more. Only Warren Spahn has more wins than those two in the live ball
So many of
era.
these right-hands were big, solid, flame-throwing guys.
He doesn't look athletic. He looks like an accountant. I mean, look at that guy. I mean, that's not an athletic-looking man right there. But the rumor was that he could throw it into a teacup from home plate. And it was really, when you watched him pitch, what he would do, he had his personal catcher, Eddie Perez, and Eddie was a defensive-minded catcher, and what he would do is, say the strike zone's this big, he would throw a pitch right in the end of the strike zone. If it was a strike, he'd move it out a little bit, and then keep throwing it till it was a strike, and keep moving it. And by the end of the game, his strike zone would be about 6 inches wider than it was at the beginning of the game.
He also had an amazing memory. What did I get him out with last time?
Yes.
Last year.
Yes.
He could remember. And he didn't attack the game. He attacked
the player. There was a story about how in 1 year he allowed a home run to Jeff Bagwell on purpose because he figured they were going to see him in the playoffs and he'd be waiting for that pitch, and he never threw him that pitch again. This is what he did. This is how Greg Maddux worked. He was so intelligent.
He had 4 consecutive Cy Youngs and a second, third, fourth, and fifth finish. So again, 8 times.
8 times he was and this is a really incredible stat. 17 straight years he had 15 or more wins. Think about that. 17 straight years.
But the chef d'oeuvre with this guy, 18 Gold Gloves.
18.
The all-time
18
record
Gold
of
Gloves.
most Gold Gloves.
Yep. Yeah, and he was like a fifth infielder. He really so the second baseman and shortstop could kind of spread out like this. He'd cover the middle of the field. And actually, we were talking about he doesn't look athletic. He had a 171 career batting average too. He wasn't an automatic out at the bottom of the lineup. Incredibly athletic guy. Pitched over 5,000 innings, and he had the lowest walks per 9 innings 9 times in his career. That's how much of a control artist he was.
The Braves had 2 of our Mount Rushmore Hall of Fame pitchers.
Yes, they did. Yeah, they absolutely
Tom
did.
Glavine and Greg Maddux, and John Smoltz wasn't that far behind.
No, he was not. You can make a case for him.
That's right.
This is how efficient he was. Maddux had a 76-pitch complete game one time. 76 pitches. You know, when somebody like when Erod is struggling, that's him in the 3rd inning. I mean, my lord. So he got through the whole game at 76 pitches, and he went 72 1/3 innings at one point without a walk. I mean, think about that. That's 8 straight games without walking a batter.
One of our criterion for all of this criteria for all this business has been longevity.
And he was, yes.
And he began 1986 as the youngest player, and retired in 2008 as the fourth
oldest. Yes, so and he was effective right till the end too. So that's a contrast between our number 1 and number 2, Clemens and Maddux, 2 different styles, and both guys got it done.
Now, if you watched our last show, Sandy Koufax was rated 3rd, even though oftentimes they'll rate him 1st.
Right.
And the same thing is happening now with our
Yes.
number 3.
Yeah.
A great many lists will rank Pedro Martinez as number 1. We're knocking him down to number 3 only because he had a shorter career.
It was, yes, and it was a brilliant career, but he doesn't have the longevity of Clemens and Maddux. And when he was on his game, he was extraordinary. He was the most dominant pitcher I've ever seen for about a 5 or 6 year stretch. He would just toy with batters. I mean, it was an event when he pitched. I mean, and especially at the era that he pitched, it was called, quote, the steroid era, where offense was at an all-time high. He has the record for earned run average relative to the rest of the league. It's like a 289 ERA plus.
Almost 3 runs below the league average.
It was
His 99 and 2000 seasons were miraculous.
Our two seasons. I mean, we could go on and on about this, but it wasn't just those 2 years. He had 3 Cy Youngs that he won. He had 2 seconds and a third also.
And a fourth.
And a fourth. Yep. He had 6 years with MVP votes, one of which was the 1999 season, where he finished second to Pudge Rodriguez. And there was controversy because 2 writers left him completely out of their ballot.
Right.
We've talked about that before, and don't get me wrong, that's not a knock on Pudge. He had a fantastic season that year. But the fact that 2 writers left him off the ballot really is a shame, because he probably should have been the MVP that season.
His whip, 1.054, lowest of any live ball pitchers.
Yep.
And he's the only pitcher to record 3,000 strikeouts in less than 3,000 innings.
Yep, he has a 10.0 strikeout per 9 innings. It's the best ever for a starter. And he has the highest winning percentage of any pitcher ever, 687. Yep. He has 219 wins and 100 losses.
100 losses.
So, and again, the Red Sox fans look on him fondly because he had several iconic moments too. I guess the biggest one was in the 99 ALDS against the Indians, where he left game 1 because he was hurt, and came back out of the bullpen with his arm barking at him and pitched 6 no-hit innings when he didn't have his fastball. He just kind of junk-balled the Indians for 6 innings, and the Sox came back from down 2-0 and won that series. And remember, at the end of the series, they're all picking him up, and he's on top of everybody like this. Just one of the all-time gutsiest performances.
It's so ironic, because he began his career with the Dodgers, who considered him too small. He was only about 5'9".
Oh, right, yeah.
And then he was picked up by Montreal, and unfortunately, they couldn't hold on to him, so the Red Sox were able to draft him. Mm-hmm. And then 2004, he left and went to the Mets, got hurt again, and so he pitched 18 years, but his career was cut short.
It was about 12 good years, and there were 3
right.
at the beginning and the end. And we talked about intelligence with Maddux. Pedro was incredibly intelligent as a pitcher. Same thing. He would just zone in on your weakness. I remember one bat against Gary Sheffield. He threw a curveball and went strike, and Sheffield complained about it. You could see Pedro's eyes, oh, you don't like that? Oh, I'm going to throw it again. So he threw it again, strike, Sheffield complained.
He was not popular with other teams.
No, he was not. So he threw it again for strike 3, and Sheffield complained the whole time, and he walked off the mound.
He regularly started riots,
oh, yes.
especially with the Rays.
Yes, he
I remember one time he hit the first batter in the game, a total brawl broke out, and then he had a perfect game until the ninth.
Right, yeah, right. But when he's so articulate, if you watch him, he does a lot of pre and post game stuff for TBS. And think of it. English is his second language, and he's that articulate and talks about everything. There was a joke going around when he signed. He had his first press conference, and a couple of the writers said, "Geez, he speaks better English than Clemens did." So that was a joke for a while.
Very, very intelligent man.
Yes, yep, and
he's still very frequently seen on the sports channels, and he's pretty much made Boston a second home.
Yes, and he really brought a Dominican flavor to the Red Sox, which they never had before.
That's right.
He's the second Dominican in the Hall of Fame after Juan Marichal, but whenever he pitched, you saw all this Dominican fans waving the flags.
They brought out a whole contingent for him.
And the Sox had never had a real Latin superstar like him before. No. So he's our number 3, and there's certainly Red Sox flavor going on with our top right-handers here, and there's another one coming too.
in a negative way.
Yeah, right.
Number 4 is Bob Gibson. Bob Gibson, sometimes called Hoot.
Yes, Hoot Gibson. Yeah.
Bob Gibson was a scary pitcher. I think I mentioned before that he and Randy Johnson, the only 2 people I don't want to be in the park when they're pitching, in case they throw something wild. Right. He had sort of a sidearm sling. He looked angry. Yeah. He looked like if he hit you, you didn't care. And you were not going to dig in against him.
No, he'd throw right at you.
He saw you digging your cleats in against him. Get out of the way.
He'd throw right at you.
And he was a lifetime Cardinal.
Yes, Mr. Cardinal.
Mr. Cardinal. Yeah. 17 seasons with the Cardinals. He won 251 games, ERA 291, and had a whip of 1.88.
Yep, over 3,000 strikeouts. And he's sort of single-handedly responsible for them changing the game in a way.
That's right. In 1968, his ERA was 1.12. Unmatched since the dead ball era of the 19th century. 1.12. And it was to a point where there was no offense. No.
Every game was 1-0,
people
2-1.
Weren't turning away from baseball because nothing was happening. It's supposed to now.
Right, it's right. Which is
exactly the opposite. So they lowered the mound. They changed the shape of the field because of Bob Gibson.
Bob Gibson. Yeah.
Talking about an iconic moment.
And we all know him in Red Sox land. In 1967, he won 3 games carried the Cardinals to the World Series that year.
He won 3 complete games and hit a home run against us.
He was twice a World Series MVP in 67 and 63, I think the other one was. Now, think about this. Now, you know what a quality start is defined as. Nowadays, it's 6 innings pitched, 3 runs or less. He had 26 straight quality starts at one point in his career, and he had 78 straight games where he pitched at least 6 innings. I think the game has changed a little bit in 50 years.
He won 9 Gold Gloves, 2 Cy Youngs, and before he played baseball, he played for the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yes, he did. Yes, and sadly, we just learned he's been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and is going into chemotherapy. So we hope Mr. Gibson will come out of everything okay. And he's our number 4, and again, he's on any list.
Just for the fun of it, I looked at the salaries of these 5 guys. Right. Clemens earned $150 million. Pedro earned about $150 million. Bob Gibson earned $2 million in his career. Right. The difference between this. Pitching in the 60s and pitching in the 90s.
Now. It's a business, as we always say. So our number 5 pitcher, you may be surprised that we didn't include someone, but we're going to talk about who we did include first. Our number 5 pitcher is Tom Seaver, who ended his career with the Red Sox. A lot of people forget that. So we have 3 Red Sox on our right-handed list.
He won 5 games in 1986.
Yes, he did.
In fact, they picked him up to help out with the World Series, and he got hurt before.
And he got hurt before the playoffs, and it could have cost the Sox the World Series. You never know. But he had 311 wins in his career, 2.86 career ERA. That's pretty impressive. He had 3 Cy Young awards, along with 2 seconds and 1 third, and a Rookie of the Year too. 1967, he was Rookie of the Year, and he 5 times led the league in strikeouts. He has over 3,600 career strikeouts. He's in the top 10 of all time. He led the league in ERA 3 times, And we talk about, like Bob Gibson was Mr. Cardinal. He pitched for other teams, but Tom Seaver is still known as Mr. Met.
Mr. Met.
City Field has a street right next to it that has been called Seaver Street in his honor.
And he was one of the ones that brought the Mets up to respectability.
Yes, he did. Yep, the 69 and 73 Mets that went to the World Series. He was elected to the Hall of Fame with 98.84% of the vote. He had, until Ken Griffey Jr., he had the highest
and
vote.
then Rivera.
And then Rivera. But he was, for a long time, he was the
I'm going to sneak
highest.
in next to trivia question.
Oh, okay.
The Red Sox got him in 1986 for a trade for who?
Steve Lyons.
Right.
Yes, Steve Lyons.
Talking about Steve Lyons.
It's a coincidence for Steve Lyons. Right? Yeah, he was sort of winding his career down with the White Sox at that point.
right.
Because I was too young to see him in his prime. I remember him with the White Sox when he was pretty much done. And again, just like Mr. Gibson, sadly, it was announced early this year that Tom Seaver is in advanced stages of Alzheimer's and he's retired from public life. So we're sadly that's well, people age, unfortunately, and we like to think of these athletes as we remember them in their prime, like in the picture.
But people are so physically extraordinary.
Right. But that's our number 5. So you may notice that we left someone off that you may argue is in the top 5, and you can make other cases, but we did leave off
Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan.
The Nolan Ryan, one of the most amazing men ever to play baseball. Amazing because he holds the all-time strikeout record by nearly 1,000.
He pitched till he was 46 or 47 and threw hard. He wasn't a Mr. Finesse.
He started out his career sort of like Nuke Lelouch.
Yes, he did.
He would maybe stroll the ball when he's pitching the Mets, especially. He'd walk more than he would strike out.
Right.
And he would just fire the ball. But he eventually became an extraordinary strikeout pitcher.
Yes. Yep. 7 no-hitters, I think.
7 no-hitters and 12 one-hitters.
Yes.
5,714 strikeouts.
Ridiculous.
839 more than Johnson.
Right.
But he had no Cy Youngs,
right.
no MVP, and no Gold Gloves.
Right. So he just missed the cut. So that you can debate. Let us know what you think. If you think we should have included him over somebody else, but it's a pretty tough argument to include him and bump somebody out that we had on our list. And of course, like we said, the field in right-handed pitchers is extremely deep. You could make a case for Roy Halladay, Marichal, as we talked about. There are so many right-handed pitchers. Messina. I mean, there are so many that you could have.
Well,
included
Ryan
on
was
the list.
first in walks,
First
in wild pitches.
Yeah.
Third in losses and ninth in hit batters, and first in grand slams.
In grand slams allowed, yes. And first in beating up Robin Ventura, too. He leads the majors in beating up Robin Ventura.
We had to include him, though,
yes,
because
yeah.
and he's still owner of the Rangers, so you see him all the time still.
Right. So he's sort of our 5A, which we didn't do on any other list, but we felt on this one that it would be remiss not to at least mention him. So here's our list.
Hall of Fame. So the first one, Roger Clemens, Greg Maddux, Pedro Martinez, Bob Gibson, and Tom Seaver. And that concludes our 50 Mount Rushmore Hall of Famers. We think maybe next season we maybe put together lineups.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Do,
yeah, so assemble the best lineup we possibly can.
Possibly get out of that.
And there were 3 Red Sox on this list, so I don't think that did not happen on any other list. Yeah. So let us know what you think. Give us some feedback. We love to hear from people who agree or disagree with us, because debate is fun.
That's right. I think maybe you can take all the number 1s. I'll take the number 2.
Oh yeah, we'll see what we
put a good lineup together. And see if we can come up with something.
Sure. So I get Clemens, you get Maddux, and so forth, right?
So. No, I get only one lefty.
Oh, only one lefty. Okay.
You take Clemens and I'll take Randy Johnson.
Oh, okay. There we go. All right, that works. Well, you might have the edge on that. I don't know. So moving on from our Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
We have one other thing we're going to talk about. Oh, do we want to do the trivia first or save that till the end?
We'll do the trivia now.
All right. So
that's right. The question was, Roger Clemens won 192 games with the Red Sox, matching one other pitcher for the Red Sox, who also won 192 games. And I'm sure you know.
Cy Young.
Cy Young.
There he is.
Cy Young.
There he is. He was with the Red Sox at the turn of the century, the early 1900s.
And if they had it, then he could have won the Cy Young Award.
He could have won his own award, right?
That's right.
So here's another one. Who's third behind them, believe it or not?
For most wins.
For most wins is a Red Sox.
Oy.
He was with them forever. Tim Wakefield is
that's-
third
oh,
behind them.
absolutely,
Yes.
Tim Wakefield.
Tim Wakefield is
Yeah,
third,
that's
believe
right.
it or
Tim
not.
Wakefield won over 200 games.
Yes,
A
he
few
did.
of the Pirates.
He
That's
did.
right.
He did.
Tim
That's right.
Wakefield.
You believe Tim Wakefield won 200 games in his career? My lord.
I always thought the knuckleball was a gimmick pitch, and even though he did well with it, I'd be sitting back waiting for Aaron Boone.
Right.
Always waiting for Aaron Boone. Sooner or later,
Somebody's going to hit one 500 feet
I
off.
guess he's a gentleman. We actually had a chance to meet him down in Arlington once. He was walking around the lobby carrying his guitar. He's a guitar player.
Yeah, he's a country
But he
music
didn't-
guitar player,
He did
yeah.
not want his guitar to go on with the rest of the equipment. And so Deb got over and talked to him. Very well spoken, very nice fellow. But I just thought the knuckleball. We saw one game in Detroit where he pitched.
Oh.
Sox won 10-7. He pitched a complete game and gave up 6 solo homers.
Right.
6 homers,
Right.
and they won the game.
Yeah, so he threw 95 great pitches and 6 ones that they just crushed out of
6
the park.
did not
Right,
waffle at all.
Right.
It was-
And Wakefield would just get on those rolls, too. He'd look great for 2 months, and then he would just look horrible for another month.
And they put him in relief for a season.
Sure they did. Yeah, he was
Quite
a
a few
closer.
saves.
Yeah. But Cy, Roger, and Tim, I think, are far ahead of anyone else. Those are the top 3 by quite a bit.
So that's our trivia question.
So moving on to the last segment
Now,
here.
what
Yeah.
we started out the show with, if you just tuned in late, shame on you, was that Bill James's book here, which everyone I can't imagine would not want to get because any possible barroom argument can be ended right here.
Right.
Is he's concerned about the fact that baseball attendance is dwindling, at least in other parts of the country. So he got some suggestions on how you could shorten games.
Right.
Now, they've done some silly things recently, like 4 balls don't have to be thrown for an intentional walk.
Right.
That's shortened games a lot. Only 2 minutes between games. There's a clock. That
Right.
counts
Oh, the
between
countdown.
The countdown
Yes.
clock. What else?
Well, they're going to do the 3-batter minimum at this upcoming
That's okay,
season,
this
which
year,
is
but, so far. So I haven't seen, in fact.
Oh, the
last-
catcher visits too. That was another one.
Oh, yeah.
They
Mound visits.
Mound
We
visits.
talked about that
They
before.
limited the catcher
Great
visits.
mound visits.
Yes. Which is sort of ridiculous.
Which was mostly aimed at
Gary Sanchez,
Sanchez.
who learned it from Jorge Posada, who was the king of that.
I guess they figured it easy. Nobody can steal the signs if they don't give any.
Right. So there are all these things that they've implemented, but none of them have really made a difference so far, I don't think,
So
anyway.
he's come up with a number of different things, and I'd like to just see what everybody thinks about these. Some of them can be done without changing rules.
Sure.
Some of them are kind of drastic changes. Some, I think, are going to meet with a lot of resistance with real fans.
And some are just funny.
And maybe some of them are funny,
Yeah,
that's right.
right.
And some may not really shorten games anymore.
No,
That's a
some
possibility.
might not work. But
So all they've done before, the 4 balls, bound visits, clocks, they really haven't done anything. This year, the average game lasted 3 hours and 5 minutes. Last year, it was 3 hours and 4 minutes.
so it actually picked up a minute.
That didn't do anything.
Didn't do anything at all.
So the first thing, and this is valid, and all the time I personally played ball, it was standard. You prohibit batters from leaving the batter's box once they're in there.
Right. Yes.
I never got out of the batter's box.
why would
Where was I
you?
going to go?
Why would? I mean, of course, there are exceptions like you foul a ball off yourself or something
Well,
like
yeah,
that. But the batters who take a pitch and then they walk around and take forever and adjust their equipment.
Oh,
and-
Nomar took 3 minutes. He
yeah.
He had lousy batting gloves.
He certainly
Those Velcro sucked.
Yeah,
he
he's
kept
doing
pulling
this
them,
over
pulling
and
them all
over and
the time.
over again.
It'd taken 10 minutes to go through an at-bat.
Yeah.
Carlton Fisk the same
Fisk
way.
or Mike
He'd get out-
Hargrove was the ultimate. Yeah.
Human rain delay.
The
they
human
called
rain
it.
delay, Mike Hargrove.
Leave them in the batter's box.
Right.
Where do they have to go?
Right, yep.
If they swing and foul the ball off and fall out of the box,
Yeah, that's one thing, yeah.
There's no need for them to walk around.
Yeah, I agree. I 100%
So
agree
just
with that.
stay there.
Stay in there.
Stay in there. There's no need for all that. And this is interesting. He notes that one of the things that a defense has against an offense is to catch people off guard.
Yes,
You don't have time
true.
to plan their strategies.
Very true.
In football, the team doesn't see a signal to stop and walk around and say,
Right.
let's think about
Yeah.
it for a while.
Yeah, Brady changes on the fly if he
It-
sees something he doesn't
or
like. Yeah.
Or in a fast break, you don't say, wait a minute, we
Well,
didn't catch
right,
up
yeah,
yet.
right.
But in baseball, they have time to check everything out and go through everything, get completely ready
Yeah.
for their offense. It's the only sport that does that.
So in a game where there's already a lot of offense, sorry, I don't buy
Leave
that
me
at
in.
all.
I think that's a great
I
idea.
think that's
Let's
a
leave
great
that
idea.
one in.
So number 2, and this is actually going to take effect the upcoming season
That's right,
in
it is.
2020.
Right.
Any pitcher coming into the game either has to get 3 outs or finish the inning.
Right.
In other words, the loogies, as they call them, the lefty one-out guys, the lefties who would come in to face lefty and that's it, done. You can't do that anymore, barring injury, of course.
Right.
So a pitcher has to either finish the inning or get 3 outs before you can take him out of the game. Now, this is to cut down on pitching changes. Well, I think they figured that works about once every 4 games on average, that you'd have a pitching change where that would actually happen. I'm torn on this one because sometimes I think managers do overkill. I think sometimes, a guy comes in, he gets the batter, and you pull him right away. Well, leave him in if he's throwing well. But I understand there's a whole union aspect behind it,
righty,
too. Exactly.
Righty.
And I'm surprised that the players' union didn't put up more of a fuss about this because that's a job.
Yeah.
Lefty one-out guys don't have a job anymore.
Tony Fossas.
Tony Fossas was or who was it? Mike Ripchinski was the latest one. I think that's how you pronounce it. Was like 16 consonants in a row. I think that's how you pronounced it.
But in one of the World Series games, there were 4 consecutive changes of 4 batters.
Right.
I mean, that's just
just
absurd.
and you talk about keeping people's interest. How does that keep people's interest? One batter, pitcher change, set of ads. Oh, another batter, pitcher change, set
And I
of
remember
ads.
when they used to drive the guys in the little
Oh,
cars,
yeah,
that was kind of cute.
that's
Now
right.
they come in. Some of them sprint.
Yeah.
And then there was Smith.
Lee Smith.
Lee Smith, who had a sandwich and a half as he was walking into the mound. I mean, good grief.
So I'm curious to see where this one goes in 2020 because especially with the whole thing with the openers and more reliance on bullpens. Managers are going to have to rethink some of their late inning strategy with this, with the 3-batter minimum. And of course, the downside is if a guy comes in and just doesn't have it, he's going to get crushed for 3 batters. There's no way around it.
right.
He has to face the 3 batters. So
We'll see.
we'll see
But
how this one goes.
That actually is going in, so we can have a follow-up report.
Right, but next year we'll do that.
End the season 6,
right.
okay?
Next year we'll do that.
This is kind of an interesting one. Limit the number of throws to first base.
Right.
Some pitchers, who was the one that, John Lester.
John Lester,
Never
oh,
threw to first.
God.
He was panicked to
Yeah.
throw it first.
Yeah.
And other guys just throw over there.
Yeah.
When the guy's standing on the bag.
The worst, you remember him with the Red Sox, Matt Clement was the worst. And Clement would hit a point in the game where if he wasn't on, if he didn't have a good game, he just wouldn't get anybody out. So he'd just mess around. He'd throw to first, and he'd then throw a ball, and he'd walk a guy, and he'd take forever to do it. It was, So
this is what he proposes.
Yeah.
You can't throw to first unless the runner has at least a 6-foot lead. Would be a little hash mark, I guess, in the ground.
Yeah.
Then he could throw over. Otherwise, 1 or 2 would be maximum. Now, when Ricky Henderson was playing,
right.
it didn't matter. They
It
could
didn't
throw
matter,
over all they wanted.
He was
gonna
still
anyway.
going to steal.
And it gave the fans a chance to boo all the time.
Right.
Boo!
Right. Boo!
Throwing to first. Boo!
But I understand that it's also a time delay tactic.
Yes.
If you have a guy warming up in the bullpen, you're going to mess around till he's ready, whatever. And it is unnecessary a lot of the time, I think. If you're throwing, like when Poppy was at first and they threw over, where's he going?
I mean, he threw over while the guy was standing
right.
on the bag.
Where's he going? He's not going anywhere. So actually, I'm actually kind of okay with that one. I mean, I don't know how you'd enforce the 6 feet kind of thing, but I kind of like the idea.
Instant replay.
Yeah, right. But I like the theory behind it. I think I like. So the next one is move the batter's box an inch further away from the plate.
Now, one of the things they're concerned about that happens too much is the batters lunge out over the plate all the time. And that leads into one which I think will connect with this.
Yes.
Limit protective gear.
Right.
It used to be that you were afraid you're going to get hit by a pitch, so you wouldn't lean over the plate unless you were Don Baylor.
Right.
You're going to value your life.
Right.
But now that they wear
the armor all over
they're
their...
ready for jousting when they go out there. These big, huge pads all over themselves.
The worst one I remember was Alfonso Soriano. Remember, he would stand on top of the plate and have his armor sticking out.
He would have a thing here,
He'd have a thing
here,
and Pedro would hit him.
things here, all over himself. So what they want to do is limit that protective gear and move the
batter's box back an
further,
inch.
so it's impossible to lean out over the plate.
And if you get on base, you have to wear the armor when you're on the base.
Right.
I like that
I like
idea.
that a lot.
I like that a
Because
lot.
Now, they get on, the guy hits a double.
Yeah.
Time, and he takes off
all
this
those
stuff,
shin pads
runs
and
it back
everything.
to the coach. The coach sticks it in his pocket.
No.
and
You
we
keep that
continue.
stuff on when you're on base.
This is also one I like to do. Batter must avoid being hit.
Yes.
Some of these guys,
Yeah.
who was the Met? I wish I could remember his name, who got hit 50-something times.
Oh, Ron Hunt.
Ron
Hunt was he would dive into the
He
ball
was the
like
master
this.
of getting hit. And, of course, Don Baylor would just stick his butt out and
Yeah.
stick his shoulder out,
Right.
and I'm on first base.
I'm on first base. He was so big it didn't matter if the ball hit
So
him.
if you don't make any attempt and the ball hits you in the strike zone, it's
Yeah.
a strike.
Right.
If it hits you
In
or
fact,
not.
that was part of Don Drysdale's record. An ump actually enforced that rule once
Yep.
because Drysdale would have given up a run if he hit a batter, and the ump said he didn't try to get out of the way. Well, let's enforce that.
So
Let's do
it's
it.
a lot of moving the batters off, so diving over the plate, and that also makes batters going to have to try to hit the opposite field more.
Yes, and I'm all for that.
If you
trust
can't get
me.
hurt, you can crank it up.
Yes. So this is one here. This is a fun one.
Number 7's a fun one.
Home runs
Right.
have to go 350 feet from the foul pole. So if the foul pole is less than 350 feet, you still have to hit it to 350.
So there's a second pole.
There's a second
foul
pole.
pole and a home run pole.
So
If the ball goes less than 350 but out of the park, it's a double.
it's a double. So right field at Yankee Stadium. Good
Most-
luck with that.
Most of Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, good luck with that one. Or, say somebody hits one down the right field line at Fenway where it's maybe 310 down where the pesky
right.
pole is. If it just sneaks in, that's a double. The homer has to go 350 feet.
I-
Now, how would you figure that out?
Of course,
That's,
I have two complaints to that. First, that's not going to shorten the game.
Of course it's not. No.
And people don't hit the ball 310 anymore.
No.
They hit it
They hit it 450
So that's
feet.
not going to come into
Right.
play. And
Yeah.
I don't see how that's going to shorten the game.
No.
It's going to do away with home runs by Jerry Remy.
Right.
Johnny Pesky.
Yeah, right. But I don't think it's going to do much to shorten the game.
No.
It's a fun idea,
Yeah.
but I don't think that's going to go anywhere. And
Number 8's my favorite one on the list.
Yes.
Eliminate the appeals on stolen base attempts at
Yes.
second base.
Yes. Oh, how many times do you see somebody slide into second and the fielder keeps the glove on the runner like this as he's sliding, hoping he'll come off the base a little bit.
You can see a 1/16 of a millimeter of air in between, and they call him out.
And then they have to do the replay, and the guy comes out with the little camera, and the umps sit around and do this, and they wait for the word from New York because the guy slid off the base by this much.
Jerry
So
hates it.
Forget it.
Forget it. Let the umpire call
If he's safe, he's safe. He's out, he's out. Forget it.
Just two quick ones. He also suggests lowering the mound another 2 inches.
Which we talked about that before.
Well, they've already done that 10 to 10. The lower the mound, the less hard the pitcher can throw.
Sure.
Which would mean more home runs.
More home runs, so that's not going to make the game shorter.
And this is the one that will never take.
No.
Limit the number of fouls on 2 strikes to 2.
No, I don't like that
It's
at
like
all.
they'd have to let up a little bit.
Right,
So the
yeah.
guy wouldn't foul off so
Yep.
many pitches. It's like you have to let up on the second serve of tennis.
Right,
you know?
yeah. And I like the drama of fouling a lot of pitches
the
off.
famous,
it's
famous
great.
Alex Cora 19 foul at bat home run. which
Yeah,
is
right.
Great,
Yeah. So that cuts away from the tension thing. I don't like that one, but
So anyway, if you buy this book, I think you might get a good kick out of reading
Yes.
some of these
Highly recommended.
suggestions that he has. And I guess that pretty well wraps up the year for us.
This is the
It's
year.
been a lot of fun talking to you folks. I'm really glad that we have new viewers.
yeah, welcome to our new audiences. Please, we'll be back next year.
Again, thank you to our tech crew out there, Mrs. Lincoln and McLaughlin, for doing all the hard work on the other side of the camera.
Yeah, they make us look good, which is tough to do. So
So in any case, we'll see you all on.
Take care.
And we'll be back next
we'll
year.
be back for season 6,
2020.
2020. Take care.
So long. All right, we're certainly happy that we have a number of viewers that stop us in the street once in a while.
Yeah,
and
we
say-
do. We do get
say,
stopped.
we like your show, and we would really like anyone who's interested or would like to make comments to send us an email and let us know what you think.
Sure.
Any topics you might like us to take on.
Any agreements, disagreements,
anything you like to. We
show
We'd be
suggestions.
glad to have
Sure.
visitors to come in and talk. We've had some people come in and talked on our shows before. We'd love to have people come in and.
Sure. LunenbergAccess@gmail.com. You can send us an email. We'll have it at the end of the show, too.
And we'd be glad to read the emails. as
Oh,
long-
sure. Oh, viewer mail. That'd be a new segment on the show.
right, sure.
Oh, awesome.
That would be
Viewer
great.
mail. Great.
Just keep it clean and keep it positive.
Right.
And go Sox. Thanks for listening.
All right,
and
take care.
thanks for watching. And hope to hear from you.
See you in 2020.
Ernie Shore was the perfect one. When Babe Ruth, he got the thumb. For a price, they sent him down to old New York. Things went bad till Cronin came. At 46, they won again. The Sox had Tex and pesky team with Bobby Dorr. I'm talking baseball. Wes Ferrell and Doc Kramer, Boston baseball. Cy and Triss, the Hall of Famers. Dominic Parnell and Jimmy Fox. The Thumper, just waiting in the box. I'm talking baseball, baseball and the Sox. There were triple crowns and MVPs. He hit the ball.
Thank you for watching another outstanding program provided to you by Lunenburg Public Access. We're here to serve the community. Lunenburg Public Access is always looking for volunteers to help record town events, high school sports, and town meetings. Please consider helping us out today. To contact us, you can call 617-763-3018 or email us at lunenburgaccess@gmail.com. Thank you.